Hey guys, it's Tina. This is my October wrap up. For the month of October, I read 6 books, which is pretty surprising considering the kind of chaotic month I had. Let's get into it. The first book that I'm going to talk about is The Vampire Academy. I read this book a long time ago. Really long time ago, so long ago that when I went to go reread it, I didn't remember anything about it. But me and my fellow booktube pal Kristen wanted to watch the movie together over Discord, and she mentioned that Fallen and the Vampire Academy had really cheesy, really bad book to movie adaptation. So we decided to watch it together. I read The Vampire Academy to remind myself of the story and what happened, so I knew what I was looking at when I watched the movie. I enjoyed the reread. It took me back to the days where I enjoyed young adult fantasy a lot more than I think I'm enjoying it now in my older age. And it was a fun time to reread that book and watch the incredibly cheesy, incredibly bad movie that went with it. It was a good time. If you're into really bad book to movie adaptations, check it out. It's great. And then Fallen I reread because that's another book to movie adaptation, and I thought I read Fallen a long time ago, but in reading the book this time I realized I don't think I did. My thoughts on that one is it's kind of typical dude's a jerk, but she's in love with him anyways type of trope. I kind of enjoyed it. It was an interesting concept. I didn't enjoy the male love interest being a complete jerk, and then the girl main character decided that she's gonna go after him and they're in love anyways. That trope drives me nuts because it's like, for example, the first interaction that these two have in this book is he flipped her off. If I was in high school and the first time I lock eyes with some dude, he flips me off, I'm done. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go over here because obviously you want nothing to do with me and I don't want to waste my time on that kind of malarkey. So I don't think it's realistic. And if it is, or it shouldn't be realistic, I don't think it's a good message to put out to young, impressionable girls that he may be a jerk at first, but he'll fall in love with you and be nice later. And that, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a mom to an almost teenage girl and I would be infuriated if something like that happened to my daughter. And then she's like, but I love him anyways. We would have a long chat with that. When I was younger, I read books like that and I enjoyed them. But now that I'm in this stage in life, I don't think I could read these books anymore and not criticize that type of trope anymore. That's all I have to say about that. Then I read Under the Water. I found out about this book from my pal Dina with Books and Yada Yada. She was talking about this book on her channel and it intrigued me because it is a story of this family that needs a complete change from their life. And so the father gets a job in Boston and they currently are living in Seattle, and they're going to take their motorhome and drive it across the country to have a vacation to kind of renew and have a fun adventure before they move into their new life at Boston. I am from the greater Seattle area and I have a good friend that lives in Boston, and I just figured that sounds pretty cool. So I read it and it was pretty cool and it was pretty entertaining, but I'm typically not like a thriller reader. This is a book out of my wheelhouse in a genre that I don't normally read, but I enjoyed it. It was page turning, it was engaging. It wasn't like clear cut and dry who was the victim and who was the antagonizer. It kind of flip-flopped a little bit. That was pretty cool. I like it when at first you are meant to see a character as the villain, but then humanize them enough to kind of feel sorry for them in the situation that they're in. And then it flip-flopped to where who you now consider the villain because you felt sorry for the old villain, and maybe they're not really truly the villain, or maybe they're just a victim of their circumstances and then cause them to do some unsavory things, then puts the other person as the real villain, and it just kind of flip-flop, which I found pretty fascinating and intriguing. And I basically read that book in a day, maybe two. I read it in a weekend, completely in a weekend. And the only thing that I didn't really love was the ending. The ending wasn't like my favorite type of ending, but up until the ending, it was a page turner. It kept me entertained. It kept me captivated by it. So if you are into thrillers and have not read that book, go ahead and check it out. I think it's a pretty short book. I'm not sure how many pages because I listened to it on Audible. And then the next book I'm going to talk about is The Way of Kings. I 100% thoroughly enjoyed this book. There wasn't a part of the book that I didn't enjoy. I've said it a couple of times. It has a really intense beginning, and then it slows down for a ton of character building. And in that time, I grew to love the characters in this story. Then the end was 100% satisfying, and I was really happy with it. And I think this is a really great book. I have a non-spoiler review. I will link it down below as well as put it in the cards if you want a in-depth opinion, but that's really all I'm gonna say about this book because I'm pretty sure I've talked about it in one of the weekly reading vlogs. I also did a whole review on it, and basically I'm just gonna repeat myself. So, love this book, finished it. If you haven't checked it out and you like epic fantasy, check it out. Then I'm just gonna get right into it. Last night, I finished Words of Radiance. My thoughts on this are, it was much faster pace than The Way of Kings. It picked up basically right where it left off. It was almost non-stop action. I read this in a much shorter time than I read The Way of Kings. I was constantly thinking about it, couldn't put it down. I needed to know what happened next. I really wanted to skip the interludes. I didn't want to read them because it would end right at a perfect moment where you're just like, and then you really wanted to know what was happening next. But I think this is starting to be a pattern with me and Mr. Sanderson. Ending's not my favorite. Second book, ending. Same with Mistborn. If you're wondering about my thoughts on the second book of Mistborn and why I didn't like that ending, I will link that video down below. But in the Well of Ascension, I hated that ending. This ending I felt was, I really don't want to say, I just didn't love it. That is my thoughts. I am going to try to film a spoiler book talk on this, but I don't know if I'm going to get it out this week or not. So we'll see. But yes, finished Words of Radiance. So that means if you watched my November TBR, then I am almost like super right on schedule. So then I'm starting with Oathbringer, and then I have basically 17 days to read that. I may make it. Yay! Okay, then the last book I'm going to talk about is the Dragon Reborn, which is the third book in the Wheel of Time series. This book I really enjoyed. It just seems to keep getting better and better and better, in my opinion, with these books. We got a lot of other characters' point of views. I believe this book was far more intense than the last two books. The thing that drove me nuts, though, is we got a lot of other point of views in this book than probably the main point of views that we were used to seeing in the last two books. But it seemed like most of the action or most of the intrigue was with that one other person, but we never got to see what was actually happening with that other person from their point of view, which I think is purposeful to keep you like, oh my gosh, what's going going on? What's going on? What's going on? Because we see what's kind of happening from other people's point of view, but we don't actually get to see what is actually happening. Drove me nuts, but kept me turning the pages at the same time. I'm not mad at it. It's one of those really good, frustrated types of things. Do you know what I mean? Super enjoyed this book. I can't wait to get to the next book in the series, which is Shadow Rising, and that is also on my November TBR. Shadow Rising is I think it's the longest book in this series, but super excited about that. Really loving the series more than I thought I would. That's it. That's all. That's all I read in October, which actually kind of surprised me because I didn't have a very intense reading month with me starting the new job and switching everything around and life happened. I didn't think I read that much until I was tallying up the books in order to film this video. And I was like, oh crap, I read 6 books. It's a lot. It's a lot more than I thought I did. I hope you guys had a good month. Like, subscribe. Let me know how you guys are doing. Let me know if you read any of the books that I read in October. What are your thoughts? I hope you guys had a good October. Bye. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. You know when you have something planned to say and then like your mind just goes blank and you lose like all of it? And you're just sitting there like, I was going to say something. I was going to say something that I thought was really good or intelligent, but it's gone now. So.